Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys, coming to you from Big Daddy Studios in Gainesville, Florida. Again, this is a pre-recorded video portion, but as it streams live on Facebook, we will be answering people's questions and comments as they come. So we're kind of half recorded, half live today, as we usually are here on the FAIRtax official Facebook page. And also, you can see the FAIRtax Guys, FAIRtax Power Radio on excluded.tv.
Yep. And whenever this show's on Facebook, then several of us are attentive to the comments there. So, you know, join in, put the comments in there, ask questions, make comments, whatever, make suggestions.
And share the video.
Yep, and share yes, please share the video, all right? We need to get this out to as many people as possible so that we can convert the American people, because as we always say, I mean, when people find out what the fair tax really is, when they learn about it, they believe in it.
How about once you understand it,
you'll demand it?
That sounds good.
I have heard that before.
I have heard that before, too. I'm not sure where.
Yeah.
But we will advise folks that our, it's coming back again, our email address, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. Thefairtaxguys, all one word, @gmail.com. You can leave us a question or a comment and say we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that, and we will respond to some folks who send us things at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com one more time. Or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page, the FAIRtax Guys Facebook page as well.
Yeah, we truly appreciate the comments from our viewers and listeners because we get some good questions that sometimes we can include in the program, and we get some great suggestions too.
And again, share the program with your friends and family. We're on at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's when the program streams. Sometimes the video portion is live, sometimes it's pre-recorded.
Yeah.
But 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the FAIRtax official Facebook page is where the FAIRtax Guys, FAIRtax Power Radio will show up each and every week, and they'll put it on Excluded TV as well. You can check that out and share the video and just tell folks about the FAIRtax Guys and the FAIRtax Power Radio. And eventually there will be enough of us out there that understand it and will demand it and will not vote for candidates who don't like the fair tax, and then we'll get enough folks and enough Congress critters to get this through.
Yep, we got to work on that. So,
but speaking of Congress critters, we need to remind people of PopVox. We do this all the time on occasions. PopVox, POPVOX.com. It is a website through which you can communicate your opposition or your support for any piece of legislation that is before Congress. You give it your address so it knows what congressional district you're in. So then any feedback that you put on PopVox goes to your representative. Of course, your senators as well, whatever state you live in as well. And last time we looked, that the fair tax, H.R. 25, was enjoying about a 96% approval rating. 96% of the people who are commenting on the fair tax like it. You know, only about 4% of the people who are commenting on the fair tax don't like it.
And when you see the comments, because it'll list the comments there, I approve of the fair tax, I disapprove. Generally, for the most times, it's I don't like the fair tax because it's a sales tax and it's regressive and it hurts the poor, which tells you right away they don't really understand the fair tax, because you know, if you've been listening to this program or if you've read the books, okay, you know that the prebate, the family consumption allowance, actually negates that whole regressive nature. Yeah, a normal sales tax is regressive. The fair tax is not a normal sales tax, and the prebate is what makes it super tax. It makes it progressive, and it really, really helps the working poor more than any other plan ever presented to Congress, and you can take that to the bank.
I like the comments on the other side that said, I like the fair tax because it gets rid of the IRS, and I can't stand those guys.
Yeah, we get a lot of that, and we can understand it. You know, the IRS is universally hated. You talk about the fair tax at any group, you know, there's a group of whatever group is, and you're talking about the fair tax, and you say it eliminates the IRS, generally you get a round of applause when you say it eliminates the IRS. Everybody hates the IRS. Yeah. Well, and for good reason. They're out of control.
Well, I have found some folks that are crazy enough to say, what do you mean it gets rid of the IRS? The fair tax is going to require an even bigger IRS than the income tax.
Yeah.
Somebody's been smoking something if they think that, for sure, no doubt.
Well, you know, 45 of the 50 states have a sales tax, and how much do you hear about these state sales taxes in the news? Do you ever hear about somebody defrauding the sales tax? I mean, if it is, it'd be a vendor. Have you ever heard of the state sales tax organization showing up on somebody's door? Did you pay tax on that pair of jeans you bought last week? No, it doesn't happen because the sales tax is automatic and it's simple and it's visible. And that's what we're going to do on a federal level, is have a federal level sales tax, including the prebate. So, yeah.
And don't let anybody tell you that sales tax is imposed on top of the current system. The fair tax replaces the current income tax. Withholding goes away, payroll taxes go away, tax returns go away. April 15th becomes just another lovely spring day.
Yeah.
And you get a tax refund every month instead of every year, maybe.
Yeah.
What's not to like?
Yeah, it's a great system.
And we would remind folks again that we have talked with our congressman here in Florida 3 about PopVox. And he has told us that, in fact, hopefully we're going to have him on here before too much longer again. But he has told us that the Congress critters themselves are generally way too busy to work on something like that. There are like thousands upon thousands of bills that are introduced into Congress every year. But every last Congress critter does indeed have at least one, and in some cases more than one, staff person whose sole job it is to keep an eye on PopVox, see what hot buttons there are out there, what issues the constituency is concerned about, and of course to get their opinion on those issues. So the more people we have talking about the fair tax, the higher up on the priority list it's going to become for Congress critters that are watching PopVox. And of course, with a 96% approval rate, I don't think there are too many folks, if they really represent their constituents rather than what party leadership tells them to support, that they'll have to like the fair tax. So you are doing a great service to the cause of passing the fair tax if you go on PopVox and register your support for it.
And while you're looking around the the internet, go to FAIRtax.org, which is the website of the Americans for Fair Taxation, our national group. And make sure, if you haven't already, sign up to get their emails. All right, give them your name and email address and so forth. And you'll get, every Friday, you'll get an email called FAIRtax Friday. And it'll have an interesting article written by Steve Hayes, the president of the Americans for Fair Taxation. Steve, as I like to call him, is the dean of the fair tax.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he really is. He's been working on the idea of a consumption tax since before the fair tax was born, okay? And he's met with a lot of people in Congress and so forth. Very experienced, very knowledgeable.
And talking about going to different websites around, we keep an eye on Congress.gov, and we have discovered there are about 10 changes to the tax code for every day that Congress has been in session.
10 proposals.
10 proposals. Yeah. 10 proposed changes to the tax code for every day that the Congress has been in session. And you can bet that there's a lobbyist and some campaign cash behind just about every one of those things. Yeah. And let's look at a couple of good ones that have just come in recently.
These are Lulus.
H.R. 1444 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a special rule for certain casualty losses of uncut timber.
There you go.
I guess that means if a hurricane blows or a tornado blows your forest down that you're harvesting, you're growing timber, that you can get some kind of a tax cut for that.
Which means you want the rest of the taxpayers in the country to pay for your broken trees or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens with every one of these things. They seek a certain exemption, and you're really asking the rest of the taxpayers in the country to pay for your problem.
Yeah, that's another topic that Steve brought up in an article recently about every time somebody gets a tax benefit, somebody else has to pay more to cover it.
Yeah, all the rest of us.
Oh, and here's another crazy one. H.R. 1436 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to extend the Earned Income Tax Credit to all taxpayers with dependents and to qualifying students. Now, all taxpayers with dependents, Donald Trump has some dependents, right? He should get the Earned Income Tax Credit, and for other purposes. They put that in there all the time.
For other purposes.
But it's fun. Go into Congress.gov. Use the search function they got up there, includes the words Internal Revenue Code in quotes, and then search on that, and you will get back. I mean, there were over 1,700 proposals to change the tax code in the last Congress, and that rate is continuing in this Congress. Some of them are pretty good. My favorite one is still the one about changing the definition of solid municipal waste.
Oh yeah,
why
that's
is
right.
that in the tax code?
Yep.
Why should casualty losses of uncut timber be in the tax code? I don't know.
There's some good ones in here.
All right. Well,
getting back to the IRS.
Let's move right along here on FairTax Power Radio. We have got one of the most precious documents ever created by man, called the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, let's put that up on the screen.
And we are going to talk about how the IRS routinely and in a rather nasty manner sometimes runs roughshod over the Bill of Rights. And of course, the First Amendment is the first right in the Bill of Rights. Congressman shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The IRS doesn't have a whole lot of respect for that, does it?
No. And I mean, freedom of speech, you remember that a few years ago, the IRS was paying extra scrutiny to certain groups that were trying to get tax-exempt status. And it was during an administration that didn't really care for those groups.
If we don't like what you say, we're going to get you.
Yeah, and they were actually limiting their free speech. Now, because in order to raise funds to do advertising or whatever they were going to do, they wanted to become, they want a 50c3 status. Florida FairTax is a 50c3. Okay,
501c3.
Yep. And our purpose is to educate people. That's what we do. We're nonprofit, nonpartisan educational organization. But these groups, because they had certain things in their names like conservative, or, Constitution or freedom and so forth.
Patriot.
Yeah, Patriot. All right. The IRS was paying extra scrutiny, and frankly, all they were doing is delaying these groups being able to have a say during the election period, okay? They were inhibiting their free speech, all right? Because obviously if you don't have the tax-exempt status, it's very difficult to raise money so that you can run some ads. And so they were interfering with the freedom of speech. How does the IRS get away with this, Bob?
Because nobody's big enough to give them a ticket to make them quit.
Yeah. And because
Congress has empowered them to do all this stuff.
Yeah, they've given the IRS. Now, a lot of these things that the IRS does, they were given the authority to do that to fight crime. Good. I think that's a good idea. If you need to use this to fight crime, then that's good. Leave the rest of us alone. Right? The vast majority of people in the country are not criminals. They're not, even though I have an Italian last name, I'm actually not a crime boss, okay? The IRS just gets out of control. They forget about fighting crime. They just want to fight people.
I love the thing that says that the IRS makes criminals out of taxpayers and the FairTax makes taxpayers out of criminals.
That's a good one.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So anyways, freedom of speech and right of the people to peaceably assemble, that is interfered with by the IRS and this tax code, and we need to put an end to it, all right? People should not have the Bill of Rights infringed upon, okay?
Oh, mercy. So, excuse me, sorry.
We had lunch early.
As soon as
today.
they turn the camera on, that's when the tickle comes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
now, of all the bills of rights in the Bill of Rights, all the articles therein, I don't think the IRS does any more damage to the fourth one.
Oh.
All the rest, that is the primary one that they just, run roughshod over.
Do we have that graphic?
The Fourth Amendment, if we got the graphic up there, I'm going to read it anyway.
Yeah.
It says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. How many times does the IRS just show up and swipe something? You don't even have to be formally accused of anything. You don't have to be formally charged with something. You certainly don't have to be convicted of any kind of criminal activity. The IRS just comes in and says, I think you're doing something wrong here. I'm going to grab your bank account. And if you think I'm bluffing, look up Carol. Oh, gosh, what was her
Carol
last name?
Hinders. And Carol with an E on the end. Carol Hinders, Hinders, all right?
Carole.
Yep. That video is 4 or 5 years old. It's only about 2 minutes. And it shows you what she went through, all right?
But who is she? What was she doing?
She runs a cash-only restaurant, all right? And obviously, now that's unusual, yeah, to have a cash-only restaurant. But she's been doing it for over 30 years, so obviously she's doing something right.
Well, as much as the credit card companies charge in fees for using their thing, cash only works really good for some folks.
So her customers like it. And of course, it's a cash-only business, so she has to take that cash and deposit it. Okay. Well, when we looked into this, there's something called civil asset forfeiture. Again, it's laws passed by Congress, authority given to the IRS to fight crime. And what it says is that, you know, you got somebody, a drug lord or something like that, and he puts $10,000 or $20,000 in the bank and then transfers it somewhere else. Well, the laws say if that happens, you have to register that transaction with the IRS. I have no problem doing that to keep up with criminals and so forth. I have no problem if somebody's doing that for, you know, for whatever reason. But this lady's putting in $2,000, $3,000 at a time. Well, there's another part of that law that says if you're putting it in at less than $10,000 at a time, like maybe $5,000 today and $5,000 tomorrow, in an effort to avoid the $10,000.
Trying to stay under that trigger.
Yeah, that's called structuring, and that's also illegal. Well, come to find out, I mean, Bob and I, when we first learned about this, how does the IRS even know about that? How do they know that somebody's deposited in $4,000 or $5,000?
If you don't have to report the $4,000 and $5,000 ones, how do they find out about it?
Well, come to find out, they have it set up with tellers, bank tellers, that if the teller thinks there's something suspicious going on, the teller doesn't have to tell their boss. They don't have to tell the other tellers. They just fill out a report and send it to the IRS. And then the IRS determines if there's something, if they think there's something suspicious. They never talk to the individual. And this is what happened in this video. You'll see this after we're done. Go to the YouTube and look for Carol Hinders, Carole, Hinders, and you'll see what happened to this lady. You know, a grandmother type person runs this cash-only little restaurant, and she was having breakfast one morning. 2 IRS agents show up at her door and informed her that they just froze her bank account of like $30-something thousand. Well, that's what she needs to buy the supplies for her restaurant.
Now she can't run her business.
Now it's happening to me.
Now you caught it.
So, and so she's in a terrible situation, and she did nothing wrong, and she wasn't accused of anything.
Wasn't charged with a criminal activity.
Charged with
certainly not convicted.
Not accused, not charged, not tried, not convicted, and it totally violates the Fourth Amendment because the IRS was given that authority to fight crime. She is not a crime boss, and this happens to hundreds of people around the country, especially, you know, somebody running a convenience store. There's a lot of cash transactions. You got to put that money in the bank account. You don't want to keep it in your store for very long. Put it in the bank where it's safe. So every once in a while, the IRS sees these deposits, you know, of under $10,000. Boom, they freeze the account. Now the small businessman has got to scramble to try to find money to buy their supplies, you know, to replenish the stores.
I think that's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable, yeah. That's putting it mildly. So this civil asset forfeiture that was given to IRS to fight crime, the IRS is mightily abusing it. And hundreds of innocent, 100% innocent people are suffering because of this.
How much money do they have to spend trying to get their good name back?
Oh, tons. Tons, unless they can get some organization. Now, Carol Hinders said she decided to fight it because she didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, and
then years later, the IRS says, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, you're right. Well, we'll let you.
No harm, no foul. We're gone.
Yeah. After we've spent it, and somebody needs to sue them. Of course, you know, if somebody did take the IRS to court, who pays the IRS legal fees? Yeah, We do, yeah. So, but there is a ray of light in this. This is from February 23rd, okay? And somebody sent me this on email. Anyways, oh yeah, this came from Americans for Prosperity. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the Eighth Amendment, the ban on excessive fines, applies to states as well as the federal government. All right, a sweeping ruling that strengthens property rights and could limit police seizures, such as those done through civil asset forfeiture. So this civil asset forfeiture has trickled down from the IRS to local, state and local police agencies too. I mean, you hear stories. If you go looking for this, you'll find stories that some young fellow was traveling out to California because he wanted to make his fortune in Hollywood or something, and instead of wiring the money out, for some reason he brought a whole bunch of cash, and the police stop him, they find the cash, and they confiscate it. They don't have to give a reason why. Civil asset forfeiture. And there's some, if you look this up, you'll find out that there's some legal, and I don't understand this, I'm not an attorney, but they actually arrest the money, all right? That the money is accused of committing a crime, and they arrest the money. I mean, this is how weird it is, right?
Oh,
I think
mercy.
Randy could probably...
yeah, we'll have to ask Randy about that one. He is a retired attorney.
Total violation of the Fourth Amendment. Very, again, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, their houses, their papers, and their effects against unreasonable search and seizure. Right out the window with the IRS. Okay. Terrible situation.
We're running out of time. We got to scoot on down a little bit. The Fifth Amendment is one that people hear a lot about. Now, that's a fairly long one. I'm just going to read a snippet of it. It says,
put that up there, please.
Said, a person shall not be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without, here are the key words, due process of law. Now, the IRS looks at that and says, huh?
Yeah, out the window.
What's due process?
Yeah, we don't care about that.
Due process is what we say it is.
We're going to give you an audit, and we don't care about the Fifth Amendment, and if we say you're guilty, you're guilty. That's it. All right? So, yeah, they come in and audit. They don't have to get a warrant. They don't have to have nothing. They just say that they're going to audit you, all right? And again, a total violation of that portion of the Fifth Amendment, all right? And then there's number 6. Put number 6 up there, please.
Yes. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy a right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, and skipping down a little bit, to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with witnesses against him.
Again, if the IRS accuses you of doing something wrong with your finances, you don't have any witnesses. You don't get any of that. There's no impartial jury. The IRS is judge, jury, and executioner. Total violation of the Bill of Rights. In this case, number 6. Again, it's a terrible situation. And number 8, the last one, this is the one I just addressed in that article. Nor excessive fines be imposed. This was great because in this Supreme Court case, which, by the way, was ruled unanimously by all 9 justices.
How often does that happen?
Not very often, but they said yes. The case was a guy was stopped for some minor infraction, something like that, and they impounded his car, which happened to be like a $42,000 vehicle. Even though the infraction that he was accused of, even if he were found guilty, it would be like a $1,000 fine or something like that. And so he took him to court and said, you confiscated a $40,000+ vehicle, which is far and away higher, a much greater fine than if I was found guilty, And you can't do that. And the Supreme Court agreed with them. All right? So there is a ray of light.
Yes. And I would say that the Internal Revenue Service inflicts cruel and unusual punishment, which is also a piece of that Eighth Amendment there. So I would say it's definitely cruel and unusual to come and take your bank account just because they think you might be doing something wrong.
It's bad enough if you're an individual and the IRS freezes, but when you're in business, a small business, and believe me, this country exists on the backs of small businesses. Small businesses create most of the jobs in this country. Mom and pop businesses, businesses under 50 employees, okay? It's a big deal. And when the IRS is interfering with them, this is not a good situation. So, what are we going to do about it?
How about we get rid of the IRS? Anybody in fact, let me see. How many? Raise your hand. How many would like to get rid of the I lost my hand in the FAIRtax logo up there. How many of you would like to get rid of the IRS? How about this one? That'll work. I see those hands out there. We would love to get rid of the IRS. Well, let me tell you something. Why don't we just pass the flat tax? That'll get rid of the IRS.
Wait a minute. The flat tax is still a tax on income.
Oh.
And you still have to send your tax in to somebody, some agency, which would probably be called the Revenue Service. No, the Internal Revenue Service. Oh, it would be the IRS.
So the flat tax does not get rid of the IRS because it does not get rid of the income tax.
Yeah.
So the only way to get rid of the IRS is to get rid of the income tax. And the only way to get rid of the income tax is...
Pass the FAIRtax.
Yes.
All right.
You
pass the FAIRtax.
You pass your test.
And we're working on this, and we need your help, folks. Let people know about FAIRtax Power Radio. It's on Facebook, facebook.com/FAIRtax. The show is broadcast live, and sometimes we're actually live. I mean, usually we try to be live every other week. We've got some programming schedules. You know, Bob and I both have some difficulties here this month, and we're going to have to do a couple of canned shows, but then we'll come back. But anyways, it still is considered live by Facebook with comments. Even though the program might be pre-recorded, the comments are live on Facebook. It's also shown on Excluded, XCLUDED.TV, and put the W's in front of it so it works better. And that's a site, that's a subscription site, $30 a year. And there's other shows on there. We have Ward Scott in the morning. This is out of the Gainesville area, but these are good guys. And John Martin with his hat, make fishing great again.
He's a character. He is a cool character, yeah.
And they're expanding this. Big Daddy Studios is expanding the reach of Excluded, so that's something you can. And I tell you, it's a lot of fun. When we started, this was new to Bob and I. Last June was our first TV show. And when I got the Excluded app at home on my Apple TV, and it goes up on my big screen TV, and there Bob and I are on our big screen TV. That's pretty cool. You know, just like...
There's a reason most of my career was in radio.
Yeah. So anyways, let people know about it because...
Share the videos, talk about the videos, and I'll tell you what else you can do if you want to help the FAIRtax. Go to the FAIRtax logo store, get you one of these, show up at your candidates' town hall meetings. As the election season ramps up, there'll be a lot more town hall meetings, and just go in the front row and give them...
Yep.
And then he says, "What's that?" If he says, "What's that?" tell him go to read HR 25.
Yeah.
But if he does not support HR, how come you don't co-sponsor that? What is it about the IRS you love so much? Next question.
Yeah. But at the FAIRtax logo store, all right, you can get these prebate cards, which I just pulled out of the pocket in my brand new FAIRtax shirt that has pockets in it. Finally, we have FAIRtax shirts with pockets in it. I love it. I know that sounds kind of silly, but anyways, it's a big deal for me, okay? These are very popular items. Basic information about the FAIRtax on one side, the prebate schedule on the back side, okay? Get a bunch of these, and when people ask about the FAIRtax, give them this, and it gives them some websites to go to.
How would you like to have a tax refund of $600 a month?
Yeah, for a family of four. Yeah, you think it could handle that? You know, and no income tax, no payroll tax. Ooh.
Bring home the full gross amount of your paycheck or your retirement distribution. No withholding, no payroll taxes, and never have to file an income tax return again, not even one on a postcard.
Yep. And in the FAIRtax logo store, which you see up on the screen there, FAIRtaxlogostore.org, there's a couple different style pens. There's these pins that you can, clip onto your shirt or the purse strap or something. And they got a new item. This is brand new, and hopefully I won't screw it up like I did in the last episode. But they've got little screwdriver bits in there, which will fit on into this socket right here, and you have a simple little screwdriver. It's not something that you're going to do engine repair with, but it comes in handy. So, and I think Rudy's sending these out if you purchase more than a certain amount. This is like a free item. and it's got information about the FAIRtax. All kinds of stuff in there. Shirts, hats, umbrellas, lunch totes, travel mugs. I mean, just tons of stuff in there.
Yeah, so get something from the FAIRtax logo store. Spread FAIRtax Power Radio around as far as you can. Comment favorably about HR 25 on PopVox. And of course, you can always write or call or visit your local congressman. And, phone calls and in-person visits will carry more weight than just an email.
Yeah, and don't put this off, folks, because as we said before, Congress is proposing 10 changes.
10 proposed changes every day they're in session.
Yeah.
That's the average of what we've seen so far in the Congress.
We've got to get this done, folks. I mean, because it's not getting any better, all right? And we gave you lots of reasons today why how the IRS violates the Bill of Rights and is allowed to do so by Congress. So don't let when Congress gets indignant about this, well, we can't have the IRS doing that. Well, you're the one that voted for it. You know? So, anyways.
Indeed. So, okay, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Again, thank you so much for listening. TheFairtaxGuys@gmail.com, once again, is our email address. Leave us comments on the FAIRtax Guys Facebook page, and catch us every Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time from Big Daddy Studios here in Gainesville. Again, we are the FAIRtax Guys. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
Reminding you that the FAIRtax is America's big solution, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Oh, these income tax forms are way too complicated. There's got to be a better way. Who are you?
we're the FAIRtax Guys.
We've got a big solution for you.
What's that?
It's the FAIRtax. Completely eliminates the federal income tax system as we know it. No more withholding, no more payroll taxes, no more tax returns ever, no more IRS. All gone. And I guarantee you, once you understand it,
You'll demand it.
Yeah.